Welcome to this explainer. If you've ever listened to Indian classical music and just wondered how they pull off those incredibly intricate melodies and mesmerizing rhythms, well, you're in exactly the right place. Today, we are breaking down the absolute fundamental building blocks of this ancient art form: Taal, which is rhythm, and Raga, the melody. Let's get right into it. So here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with the two main styles of Indian music. Then we'll look at Taal, the rhythmic cycle, followed by Raga, the melodic scale, and finally we'll wrap up with the compositions and the musical legends who shaped them.
Okay, section 1, two styles of Indian music.
Right off the bat, it's really important to know that the musical landscape of India is divided geographically. It's essentially split into two distinct, incredibly rich traditions. Up north, you have Hindustani classical music, which is typically sung in languages like Hindi, Sanskrit, and Brij Bhasha. Down south, you have Carnatic classical music, leaning on languages like Telugu, Kannada, Malayalam, and Tamil. And they actually use completely different traditional instruments to get their signature sounds. Hindustani music relies heavily on things like the tabla, sarod, and santoor, while Carnatic music features the mridangam, gatham, and nadaswaram.
You know that rich, continuous humming sound you instantly recognize in North Indian music? Well, that comes from the stringed instruments. Instruments with long necks and resonating chambers like the sitar and the tanpura are literally the backbone of the Hindustani style. The tanpura, for example, provides this beautiful, continuous harmonic drone. It's basically the sonic foundation that the singers and instrumentalists build their entire performance on. Moving on to section 2, Taal, the rhythmic cycle. So let's look at the Hindustani concept of rhythm. A Taal is a repeating rhythmic cycle. And honestly, it's highly mathematical. It's broken down into matras, which are your individual beats, and vibhags, which are sections of those beats. Take Teen Taal, for instance. It's super popular. It's made up of 16 beats, divided perfectly into 4 sections of 4 beats each. So musicians aren't just jamming randomly. They are navigating this incredibly precise cycle together. And there's this crucial concept called the psalm. That is the all-important first beat, the starting point where the melody and the rhythm brilliantly sync back up. Of course, you've got other cycles too, like Kairava with 8 beats and Dadra with 6, giving musicians all these different rhythmic canvases to play with. Now, in the Carnatic tradition of the South, rhythm is built a bit differently. Unlike the North, Carnatic music puts a massive emphasis on physical hand movements to keep the beat. It's highly interactive. These parts of the rhythm, or talam, are called angams, and there are 3 main ones you need to know. First is the lagu, which is a clap followed by counting out beats on your fingers. Second is the drutam, a clap followed by a wave of the hand. And finally, the anudrutam, which is just a single simple clap. Literally, if you sit in an audience in South India, you will see people in the crowd keeping the beat using these exact hand gestures. So, how do these hand movements actually come together? Well, they combine to form complete, repeating rhythmic cycles called avartanams. For example, if you combine one dhrutam, so a clap and a wave, which is 2 beats, with one lagu of 4 beats, you get a 6-beat cycle known as Rubaka Talam. But the absolute undisputed king of Carnatic rhythms is the Adi Talam. It uses one 4-beat lagu followed by 2 2-beat thrutams, creating this perfectly balanced 8-beat cycle. It's just fascinating how a few simple hand gestures mathematically construct the entire rhythmic foundation of a performance. Which brings us to section 3, Raga, the melodic scale. If Taal is the heartbeat of this music, then Raga is absolutely the soul. A raga is based on a scale, sure, but it is so much more than just a sequence of notes. I want you to think of it like a staircase made of musical notes, which are called swaras. Going up the staircase is your ascending order, the arohana, and coming back down is the avarohana. But here's the catch. It's never just a straight walk up and down. A raga truly becomes a raga when you decorate this staircase. You use specific ornamentations, you repeat certain notes, you linger on specific phrases. That's what gives a raga its totally distinct musical personality. To understand how these staircases are built, we use a concept called jati. It sounds kind of technical, but it's actually wonderfully simple. Jati just tells us exactly how many notes make up that specific raga's staircase. If a raga uses only 5 notes, it belongs to the Audav jati. If it uses 6, it's Shadav, and if it uses all 7 standard notes, it's considered fully complete, known as a Sampurna jati. Understanding this just gives you a really clear picture of the exact framework a musician is working inside of. But you might be wondering, why do we have so many different ragas and different staircases of notes in the first place? Well, the answer comes down to rasa. In Sanskrit, the word raga literally means something that colors the mind. So a raga isn't just a technical scale, its whole purpose is to evoke a very specific emotional response, or rasa, inside the listener. Some ragas are meant to evoke deep devotion, others a sense of longing, and some are just pure, unadulterated joy. The technical arrangement of the notes is entirely designed to paint your mind with that specific emotion.
All right, our final section, number 4, compositions and musical legends. When you watch a classical musician perform, they aren't just improvising out of thin air right from the jump. They usually start with a composition. This is a structured, pre-arranged marriage of a specific raga and a specific tala, usually with lyrics attached. In the Hindustani tradition up north, this structured composition is called a bandish. Down south in the Carnatic tradition, they're known as kritis or geethams. A geetham, for instance, is often a praise to a deity, taking specific lyrics and locking them into a fixed rhythmic cycle and melodic scale. These compositions basically act as the launch pad for all the incredible improvisation that happens later in the performance.
So how on earth do we still know these ancient compositions today? Well, we owe a massive, massive debt to Pandit V.N. Bhatkhande. He was originally a lawyer, armed with a brilliant intellect and just a phenomenal memory. He realized that Hindustani music, which was mostly passed down orally, was at serious risk of being lost forever. So what did he do? He traveled across the entire length of India, met with highly secretive musicians, convinced them to share their compositions, and single-handedly developed the written notation system for Hindustani classical music. He literally saved the tradition for future generations. Now let's head south and look at an absolute legend of rhythm. This is Palkat Mani Iyer. Get this, he gave his first public performance when he was just 10 years old. But what's really incredible about his legacy is how he completely changed the role of the Carnatic percussion instrument, the mridangam. Beforehand, the drummer essentially just sat there and kept the beat. Mani Iyer completely revolutionized this dynamic. He started actively supporting the musical phrases of the singer, playing these intricate, complex solos called thane avartanams. He took the rhythm section and turned it into an equal, dynamic partner in the musical conversation, a real game changer. And when we talk about Carnatic compositions, we absolutely have to highlight the pioneers known as the Trinity of Carnatic music. That's Tyagaraja, Muthuswami Dikshitar, and Shyama Shastri. These three brilliant composers laid the absolute bedrock for Southern classical music, and they each brought a totally unique style to the table. Tyagaraja mostly composed songs praising Lord Rama, and he'd actually weave his own name into the lyrics as a sort of musical signature. Dikshitar was a brilliant Sanskrit scholar who composed kritis for various deities, while Shyama Shastri focused his incredibly complex scholarly works mostly on the goddess Kamakshi. Between the three of them, they authored the core repertoire that you'll still hear performed on stages all around the world today. So, we've covered the geography, the math behind the rhythm, the emotional power of the scale, and the absolute geniuses who built the compositions. I want to leave you with a final thought and a bit of a challenge. Take Raga Yaman. It's a famous scale known for evoking Shringar, which is the mood of deep love and romance. Its structure is literally centuries old. Yet, if you listen closely, this exact same raga forms the backbone of countless modern pop and Indian film songs being released right now, today. The building blocks haven't changed, only the presentation has. So the next time you put your headphones on, ask yourself, can you hear the ancient Taal and Raga hiding in plain sight in your favorite songs? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer.